Hey everyone, Chris here with another filler video. So, looking at this right now, you're probably thinking this is some sort of Sierra AGI game you missed out on. But no, this here is Peasants Quest, a Flash game of all things. Made not in 1982 as the game's title suggests for added authenticity, but made in the mid-2000s by the same people responsible for the Homestar Runner website. Yeah, the one with the strong bad emails, the numerous Flash animations, and quirky humor. It's still around even today. In fact, despite the impending death of Shockwave Flash in the next couple years, they're in the process of revamping everything to HTML5 so that the Homestar Runner legacy continues to live on. Well, that and they're making a Trogdor board game, but today we're focusing on this quirky little adventure. In Peasants Quest, you take the role of a character by the name of Rather Dashing, who has just returned home from a vacation to Scalding Lake to discover that the infamous Trogdor the Burninator has burninated his thatch roof cottage. Thus, Rather Dashing swears vengeance and sets out on a quest to slay the mighty dragon. The only trouble is that the path to Trogdor is being blocked by a knight who's been tasked only to allow peasants to pass through. And since you just came back from vacation, you don't smell like a peasant, you're not dressed like a peasant, and you sure as heck aren't on fire like a peasant. The irony being none of the other peasants in this game are on fire either. Now, at first glance, this is going to play very similarly to the Sierra AGI games. You move around with the numeric keypad with numlock turned off, and you can type what you want to do into a command interpreter. You can also adjust how fast you're moving with the minus and plus keys, again on the numeric keypad, and you also have access to an inventory where you can look at your items and get additional info about them. Interestingly enough, the inventory screen kind of gives you a glimpse as to how many items are in the game, and while it's possible to beat the game 4 items short, you'll get fewer points that way. Don't let the size of the inventory fool you though. This is a very short game and can probably be beaten in about 5 to 10 minutes once you know how, though your first playthrough will probably be more like 40 to 50 minutes as you try to figure out all the puzzles. I think the best game I can liken the progression to is King's Quest II, in that certain events or actions will make other events occur and other actions possible on different screens. For instance, the first major puzzle of the game is to get this woman's riches back. Well, the riches were supposedly stolen by a Zonka, but when you go to find the Zonka, you discover he's afraid of the Carrack that's wandering around. And for good reason. To kill the Carrack, you need a bow and arrow. The arrow is easy to find, and the bow, you win from a dubious minigame. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff tying into each other here. Actually, let's talk about the Archery Minigame for a moment. It's pretty easy once you know what to do, but there's still a good deal of timing involved. In order to shoot a straight shot, you need to press spacebar 3 times. Once to start a couple arrows up the gauge, again to lock in the left one on the red bar, and again to lock in the right one on the red bar. Now once you get the timing for that down, it's just a matter of aiming depending on where the wind's blowing. If the wind is absent, you go dead center. If the wind is light, aim for the edge of the red circle. And if the wind is heavy, aim for the middle of the outer white ring. Once you have the bow and an arrow to use with it, the Carrack will prove no problem. Arrowed! This will reveal the Zonka and make it possible to steal the riches, after which you can return them to the woman and she'll run away with the riches, leaving you with her baby. So something I should probably point out before I go too much deeper into this, for anyone unfamiliar with the humor on the Homestar Runner website, is that it's extremely quirky and in a class entirely of its own that's kind of difficult to describe. This baby you're given is actually misused to get the optional items in the game, if you so desire, but ultimately has one actual meaningful use for progression in that it will knock over a broom in this particular cottage, providing you access and getting you a peasant's robe. Combined with the super stinky belt from the Carrack, this leaves you just one step short of being able to go up and face Trogdor. You kinda need to be on fire. But yeah, it's probably one of the easier puzzles to figure out. Anyways, past this point of the game, it's pretty straightforward what to do, and I have no intention of spoiling the ending since this isn't paid software. Everything you can do on the Homestar Runner website is cheap as free. So with that in mind, I'm not going to be too harsh on this thing's shortcomings either. After all, it was made to be a parody, not a full-blown gaming experience. But there is one particular gripe I have with it that kinda bugs me. So when you start the game, it makes it a point of explaining exactly how the command interpreter works. You type in the action you want to do, followed by what you intend to use or perform that action on. Stuff like look tree, talk man, shoot Carrick. One verb, one noun. Couldn't be simpler, right? Well, one of the commands I thought was in the game is ask, which would allow you to ask NPCs about various topics. But every time I tried to use the ask command, it kept saying ask about what, as though I was somehow doing it wrong. It wasn't pulling up the message indicating I was doing something invalid, so I figured maybe it just wasn't working properly or something. And I found out after recording footage that you have to type in ask about. 2 words. Even though the game has detection in place for the single word of ask. Freaking ask backwards if you ask me. Which actually equates to my real life initials. Huh. Granted, the game actually does have some really neat features. I already mentioned being able to adjust your movement speed. Now, another far more interesting feature is that it uses browser cookies to save progress and also keeps track of an autosave. So even if you don't save your progress and end up dying, and trust me, there are a surprisingly large number of ways to die in this game, you never get set back very far. Now, curiously, despite aping the AGI style, 2 ways you can't die in this game are from drowning or falling, as the game has invisible walls preventing you from jumping into the water or jumping off of cliffs. There's also no Walking Dead situations as far as I can tell. About the last thing to mention is that even if you get a perfect score, you'll actually end the game short 1 inventory item. Now, I've heard conflicting reports about what the mystery item really is. I've heard some people say it's supposed to be the map item you acquire, as that never actually shows up in your inventory, you just use it by typing in map. While I've also heard that it's supposed to be the second arrow that you don't need to get, but instead was dummied out and they just made the original arrow come back if you grab the second one. Either or neither of these might be the truth behind the mystery item, but either way, I wanted to mention it just so you don't go crazy trying to figure it out. And that's all I have to say about Peasants Quest. It's a very short parody adventure game with a few minor quirks, but it has the exact same humor you'd expect from something on the Homestar Runner website, and it's still worth a playthrough if you've never tried it before. I'll have a link in the video description to go straight to it. Just a reminder though, as of my making this video in August 2018, the Homestar Runner website is still operating on Flash, so if you don't have Flash installed, that is something you're going to need to play this, at least until the HTML5 conversion of everything is finished. But because of the sheer quantity of stuff these guys have to convert over, that may be quite a ways off yet. Anywho, that's all for today's filler. Next episode of Ancient DOS Games will be on Saturday, September 8th, and coincidentally, we're going to be taking a look at another inventory-based adventure game. But it features a character who's probably more of a klutz than rather dashing here. So if you think you know which game that'll be, then be sure to send your guess to adg@pixelships.com, and make sure to stay tuned because there's only 5 more episodes to go until the end of Season 5. Thanks for watching, everyone, and special thanks to those of you supporting me on Patreon. Here's just a small sample of you guys.